Myth of Empires was an incredibly hyped upcoming MMO. Made by Angela Games, it was a Chinese-based survival open world. Make guilds and clans, recruit NPCs to follow you, to fight for you, build massive cities and trade between clans, and my, was it great. I even played it during its alpha and recently it was released, but you might have noticed it's not on Steam anymore. Yes, just a week or so after its release, it's gone. This has to be the juiciest thing I have seen in the gaming industry for quite some time. Strap up everybody, because this is about to get insane. As mentioned, Myth of Empires was almost a Bannerlord meets MMO kind of game, an incredibly ambitious new MMO title, and we all know that the MMO community is always looking for something to push their hours and hours of gaming experience into, and I think Myth of Empires was going to be that thing. Starting off as a nobody, gaining up through skills and levels, foraging for resources before building your first little house, asking people to join you and then making your own clans. But not only could you work with other players, but you could find NPCs around that you could ask them to join. They could work for you, they could farm, they could blacksmith, but they could also gear up and go to battle. You could command them in this Mount and Blade style arena, and all the trailers were fantastic. Even what I played of it was so well done and so polished. The game itself on release was very well received. Of course, being a new MMO from a relatively new studio, it had its issues, but on the whole, I think people really enjoyed it. So what happened? Why has it been taken temporarily off Steam? Well, the other day an article came out by PC Gamer saying Steam removes popular Chinese strategy game after Ark Survival Evolved studio claims it stole their source code. What? What? Seriously, what do you mean? So looking more into the article, Myth of Empires has been removed from Steam over allegations of copyright infringement, resulting in a DMCA takedown request. This basically means that the guys that made Ark Survival Evolved were like, excuse me, this is worryingly similar to our game. So Steam, can you take that down for us? And funnily enough, Steam did it. But this isn't all that common. Steam doesn't just do this, especially with two titles of such a size. There needed to be some evidence. So what was the evidence that Ark Survival Evolved Studio provided? Angela Games, who make Myth of Empires, haven't actually stated it is Ark Survival Evolved. They've not said who decided to DMCA take down them, but PC Gamer looked into some documents and it seemed to indicate that allegedly it was Studio Wildcard and Snail Games, who are the developer and the publisher of Ark Survival Evolved. But then it gets juicier. As I mentioned, there needs to be some sort of at least real reason for Steam to just take down such a widely successful game. And don't get me wrong, Myth of Empires was doing great. About 30 to 40,000 concurrent players, which is fantastic for a Steam game. And you are not going to believe this. PC Gamer revealed that allegedly at least one former employee of Snail Games China, who was Studio Wildcard's parent company, the guys that made Ark Survival Evolved, founded Angela Games, or at least was part of the team at the beginning of Angela Games, and they did have access to source code for Ark. Yeah. It's not a great look. Now, of course, that doesn't confirm anything. Game developers move around all the time. We saw a similar thing from the Mafia development team. Daniel Vavra decided to part ways after Mafia 2, and he went and founded Warhorse Studios, who went to make Kingdom Come Deliverance. This happens all the time. This is nothing new. But I can't lie. This will probably be one of the main sources for the DMCA takedown and the suspicion coming from Ark Survival Evolved's development studio. It says Studio Wildcard grew understandably concerned because of the similarities between the two games, including identical gameplay mechanics, which felt way beyond the possibility of coincidence. Now, this is where I have a little bit of a problem with this, because don't get me wrong, Ark Survival Evolved came first. They did all their thing, and no matter what you think of Ark Survival Evolved, it's no place for someone to take code or just completely copy a game. But there are tons of games like this. Every MMO or open world survival has a similar start. They have to. That's just what's been founded in this genre. If someone does something completely different, it could go fantastically, but also could flop. This is why this starting as a lone person, leveling up through your skills, and of course gathering resources has been so entrenched in this survival open world genre, because it works. So of course it's going to be similar. However, Myth of Empires does have a lot of things that do look quite similar to Ark Survival Evolved. I mean, just look at the side-by-side games when you're gathering leaves or gathering wood. They kind of have a point here, but I don't think that's enough just yet. So this DMCA takedown was presented to Valve on December the 1st. They removed the game on December the 3rd, whilst all these issues are smoothed over. Hosting services have also been asked to stop supporting Myth of Empires. Going back to the employee issue, Studio Wildcard and Snail Games USA have allegedly said that key employees for the developer of Myth of Empires worked at the Chinese parent company of Snail Games USA, and at least one of them had the credentials that enabled them to access Ark Survival Evolved source code. So it's clear that it's not just this one person that moved over to Myth of Empires from Ark Survival Evolved. There were probably multiple people, judging by what's being said here. Okay, one of them had access to the source code, but if there were multiple people that started developing this game, I'm assuming that the development team didn't start as a massive thing. It was probably just a few people. And if some of these people were part of Ark Survival Evolved, of course they're going to take inspiration. That's what they know. They've made a game like that before. Of course, that's the direction they're going to take. Does that mean that they've copied source code? Not necessarily. Now, of course, after all this, it was time for Angela Games to say something, and they did release a tweet on the matter. Of course, their big title that has had so much success on release being taken down is probably going to make them a little bit angry. Angela Games has unequivocally declared the allegations of the source code theft and copyright infringement to be false. They say, our development team solemnly declares Angela Games fully owns all rights and property associated with Myth of Empires and will actively respond to any doubts or allegations on this point. Of course, it seems like a very honest response from them, saying that they will respond to any doubts on the point, yet you've got to imagine these are two massive companies with massive IPs behind them. They're going to have to say this. Of course, they're going to deny it. That doesn't mean they're right or wrong, but that's always going to happen. They've said that they have faith that they'll be able to resolve this situation in a timely manner and make the game available to everyone again. Because, as mentioned, it has been taken off Steam, although if you already owned it on the platform, you can still actually play the game. So the game isn't dead. It will probably be coming back to Steam sometime in the future. Yet for now, it's not there. It can't be bought. And just a couple weeks after the release of Myth of Empires, having it taken down from its main platform can be devastating. And I just hope that's not what we see here. Because Myth of Empires is actually a decent game. Of course, it's got some teething issues, and there are issues with things like grind and stuff like that, which there'll always be with MMOs until it's balanced out properly, but it is still great. Ark Survival Evolved and Myth of Empires do have similarities, and whilst I have absolutely no idea, of course, if any source code was stolen or used in the other games, from face value, they just look very inspired. Of course, Myth of Empires will be inspired by Ark Survival Evolved. They're pretty much the same genre, and they're made by a lot of the same people. But I guess we're just going to have to be following what happens with this. It is so interesting to see something like this happening. Whilst I'm not really on either side, I guess the truth will eventually come out, because now I'm assuming there's a lot of lawyers and a lot of people going in depth into the source code of both games to see how similar they are. So I can't wait to keep you updated on this. It's pretty juicy stuff. So if you want to see more about that, make sure you subscribe to the channel or leave a comment what your opinion on this whole debacle is. But leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Yeah, once again, we probably won't see it because of YouTube's new stupid update. But until then, I will see you in the next one.